What quilter doesn't love a free quilt pattern? Well, how about 8 free quilt patterns? That's what I have for you here today. And a bonus at the end, as long as you stay tuned all the way through and find out what it is. I'm Lea Louise from Inspired Quilting by Lea Louise, and I have some fantastic quilts that I want to share with you. And each of them has a free downloadable PDF. And all the links, everything you need is down below in the description, as well as the websites if you want further details, and the individual video tutorials for each quilt as well. So there's a lot going on here today. So let's get started. You're going to love this. Pick your favorite if you can. I want to show you some of the quilts that I'm going to be including the free patterns for, so you have an idea of what we're talking about. This is a 9-patch. It's very simple, and here's the block right here, 3 by 3. And this one has been quilted, so this is finished, and I like that orange peel quilting. It works well with charm squares, and I really like the finish. And of course, don't forget fun backing and a wonderful binding. But I want to show you another quilt with the exact same pattern. It's always so fun to see how different a particular pattern can look in different fabrics. Check this out. So this is also a 9-patch, and the way this pattern is set up is by color. You have your bold focal colors, and then you have your backgrounds, and the placement is what changes the look of the quilt. But oh my goodness, I love these. So the 9-patch is definitely one you want to download, and where there is a full tutorial on the quilt or a web page, that's also going to be included on the pattern, so that you can get that information as well. Now let's see. Oh, here's another 9-patch. This is a fun one. This I made with vintage sheets. Oh my goodness. Check this out. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the vintage sheets, and these just feel so soft, and they're all very light. The colors were predominantly light. There are a few bolds, but just overall, this is super simple. The difference with this 9-patch is there's a lattice, but there's also a center block that matches that. So it ties it all together really well. It creates a beautiful soft background, and then I use the same fabric for the borders. Oh, you'll love it. And again, this is a pair made with the same fabrics, and you can see this is just your basic charm square. They're all sewn together and just simple quilting, and that works great, but you've got to match corners. If you are a beginner quilter, here's the best one for you. There's not a single matching corner in here. No seams have to be nested or lined up. It's because it's an offset pattern. I'm going to show you all about that. But don't miss this. This is a great pattern for a beginner. Oh, here's another one. Oh my goodness, these are great. Baby bricks. And this is one of the first patterns I did when I started my channel. And very simple quilting, a very simple backing, just an overall batik. But what's nice about this is the brick pattern. You see how you've got that staggered line going across the quilt. Oh my gosh. And using these bright, bold colors, it is fabulous. Now, this background has a low volume. If you look close, I think we can do it this way. You can see some of these fabrics have patterns in them. They're not just a white or a cream. This one is the same pattern, only it's a lap size, but you can still do the same thing. And it's the bright batiks, but it's made just with white on white. And you see it has a bit of a brighter look against the low volume, so it depends on what you want to go with. But keep in mind, there's lots of ideas when you're putting these quilts together. Now, let's not forget a rag quilt. Oh, we have to do this one first. Here's a 4-patch. Oh, isn't this adorable? And so simple. You make a little 4-patch, you put a bunch of them together, and you have a quilt. But in the tutorial, what's even easier is that I don't even use batting. I just put a piece of flannel on the back. So it's a super lightweight which is wonderful for spring, summer, or for, you island folks that live in the tropics. I can appreciate what that lifestyle is. You want quilts, but you don't want them heavy, right? This is the way to do it. And it's easy quilting. But it's such a simple pattern to make. And you just mix your fabrics up and put them in a 4-patch, sew them together. If you like rag quilts, look at this one. Oh my goodness, it is so cute. Just take your strips, and again, no matching seams because we're using long strips in this particular quilt. And it's a beauty. The one thing I want to tell you is the pattern you're going to be getting is turquoise, not pink. And that also includes a simple border. So if you don't want to leave your edge just with a narrow sewn edge, you want to put just a border on here, that's included in the pattern. So that makes it really easy. All right, I know there's another one. Oh, here we go, the big pile. So these are my all blocked in, and many of you may already have this, but I have made, I think, probably 8 or 10 variations. And the first 4 or 5 are included in the pattern, but there's a lot more tutorials. And I just want to show you some other colors for this particular pattern. Here's one of the originals. Let's start with an original and show you what this pattern looks like. And it's only with 3 fabrics. I had a background, I had my bold focal, which is the floral, and then I had sort of an accent or a darker background. And it just looks wonderful. I love this. And what I enjoy about this pattern the most are these accent strips. But I was really excited about the backing. Be sure you get creative with your backing fabrics or your backing ideas. You can do so much with leftover fabrics from the front and make a backing. Look at that, just all these 2.5-inch strips. I sewed it together and the quilt is finished, and I love how it turned out. So there's that one. Then here's the same quilt but in pinks, and so I had lots of different pinks and pink brown combinations. And instead, this case, the accent is a white, and it's really bold. And look at those adorable sheep. Oh my goodness, are they too cute? And then I took a bunch of 10-inch squares, layer cakes, and just pieced them together to make the batting. Excuse me, to make the backing. And it's super simple quilting. See, just straight lines. Oh, nothing is difficult about these. Then I'm going to save that for last because I think that's my absolute favorite. I love those colors. But check this one out. Oh my goodness. Purple, gold, black. You might think Halloween, but I just think it's really an intense, great, vibrant color combination. Look at the gold and the purples next to each other. And just the way the colors all came together, I was just really pleased. But you can see this is the quilt block. And let me show you right here. So it goes from here to here. It's a 14-inch square, and it's fantastic. But I do show you in the directions of this quilt as I'm showing the free patterns. I had a few minutes. This is the quilt that I do the actual demo on for you. But look at this. Oh, my goodness. These quilts are great. I love them all, and I know you will too. So there are 8, I think there's 8 different patterns that you can download, plus a bonus. You don't want to miss the bonus. Here's the first quilt I want to share with you. This is called a 4-patch, and that has to do with the way we assemble the blocks. There's a total of 85-inch squares in this quilt. They go 8 across by 10 rows. And what we do is we pre-piece these charm squares into a 4-patch. That means 4 blocks are sewn together with a common corner in the center. When you work with a larger block like this, I find it's a lot easier to manage, and it's definitely far easier to see what you're doing and catch any mistakes before you get too far. And that's one of my favorite methods. And I love how it worked. I enjoy so much how it came together. I want to also show you the backing. So I chose one of the fabrics, and just made a solid backing for this quilt and chose a nice blue for the binding. And I think that really works well with these fabrics. It looks wonderful. I'm really excited about it. So this is a very easy quilt. If you're a beginner, this is a great place to start. If you're an experienced quilter, this is a quick place to start because it goes together really fast and it's simple to assemble and you're going to have it done in no time. So if you need a quick quilt for a gift, this is one to think about. Here's another easy charm square quilt that I want to share with you. And again, these are all 5-inch squares sewn together in blocks. Now this one is sewn into what's called a 9 patch. So we have 3 by 3 for a total of 9 squares within each block. So this is our finished block. Now this quilt is made with 81 blocks. It's 9 across and 9 down. It's great because it's a large size block. You can see right here we've got 5, 10. So it's at 13.5, so it's going to finish at 13 inches, which is great. It makes it very easy to sew. And when you get to your final assembly, once you make all your 9 patches, you only have 3 blocks in each direction. So the advantage for me is that this is a large block. It goes together quickly. It gives me some versatility in how I want to assemble my quilt, how I want the colors, the design to be laid out. And I like that. It's very quick and easy. It's not complicated. And again, this pattern is right down below. You can go to the website to read more about it specifically or to download the pattern directly. Here's a fun charm square quilt that is just sewn together randomly. There's 80 squares, so it's a 2 charm pack quilt. And it's 8 blocks wide and 10 blocks long. And they're just put together. I just made sure no 2 colors were side by side and just sewed them, put just a easy backing and binding, and it looks wonderful. The difficulty for this quilt for a beginner are these corners. If you're not accustomed to working with a 1/4-inch seam allowance and nesting seams, a pattern like this can be a challenge. Even though it's a straightforward 5-inch square repeated throughout, because you have these areas that you need to line up in order to get these squares basically perfect so they look nice and they're not all, wonky and turned every which way. It takes time to learn how to do that, and it takes practice. But that doesn't mean you still can't make this same beautiful quilt, and I'm going to show you another option. This, and I thought this was cute with a pretty little yellow gingham on the back. This one is very easy because if you'll notice, see how all these squares are offset. I sew this row together, I sew this row together, but notice these seams don't line up. And the reason is we use an offset square or rectangle, an offset block at the beginning. All we do is take half a block. Actually, this starts out as a 3 by 5, and that gives us a little wiggle room that we can trim off if need be. But that makes sure that we have enough to keep our quilt nice and square. But see how this row, we have a narrow. This is the full square, a narrow and a full square, and this alternates throughout the entire length of the quilt. And this makes every row offset, and it goes together quickly. The only real quilting technique that you need to follow is the 1/4-inch seam. And even if your seam isn't exactly a 1/4-inch, as long as each seam is the same, it's going to fit perfectly. The advantage to this quilt is how easy it is to put together, primarily because there's no matching seams. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges facing beginning quilters is learning how to get those seams to match. The previous two quilts that I showed you are great for beginners. It's an easy put together. We put our blocks into larger units and then sew the whole quilt top together. This might be the first place to start. If you've not made a quilt before, this is going to be your easiest bet because you just sew straight rows. It's so easy on so many different levels. And even for an experienced quilter, this is a great opportunity to make a fast quilt. But what I love about it is look at this nice pattern. I love the offset pattern. I like this look, but I just think that this offset adds a little more of a design element, and it doesn't look quite so structured and rigid. I tend to like things that flow more smoothly, and that's why I like this. I think it came out great. I know that you can make this. This is a perfect quilt to start with. And again, the pattern is downloadable. They're free patterns. The link to the website so you can see all the, read all the directions there. Plus you can download a printable pattern for reference. So take advantage of these free patterns. There's some wonderful opportunities to make some quilts here, and I think you're really going to enjoy them. Here is the fat quarter selection that I've chosen for this version of the baby brick pattern. And now the fun begins as we start assembling our quilt and putting all these beautiful colors together. This is a basic patchwork, so the easiest way to assemble your quilt is with chain stitching. And in order to do that, you're going to start in your upper corner. The bottom piece is going to be your first square, and on top of that will be your second square. You're going to sew this 1/4 inch seam, and now you have your first block set there. And let me show you a quick tip that I use. The expanded downloadable pattern has a grayscale picture or diagram of the quilt itself. And you can come in and do some color placement. When there's a lot of different colors, I like to have them a little bit balanced. I don't want all the blues and all the greens, unless that's where you're going, and that's your choice. But in this one, I wanted to have them laid out in a way that they're balanced across the page. So I took my markers and I kind of laid out some general guidelines. And as I'm sewing, I can also see the pattern. And you see here, I have my color, my white, my color, and then the next is going to be the color. So this is also a great way to check that you're using your pattern and laying out your blocks correct. Isn't this beautiful? I love the contrast. Bright, bold colors against a light background always look fantastic. And these are just stunning. And I like the low volume, and it works beautifully with this, a simple quilting pattern. And there you have it. It's an easy quilt to put together, and I hope you'll want to give it a try. My 3 piles, and first I'm going to take my elephant block, my first 4 patch, and I'm going to keep everything with these in the same direction. It's going to create an additional pattern, which will be kind of fun, but it's also going to keep these from repeating next to each other and getting too busy. So that's the next step, is to chain piece our quilt together. It's going to be 4 across and 4 down. So we do 4 pairs, then we come back, add a 3rd to each, and then we add the 4th. And this quilt is finished. This is going together so quickly. Once that's all done, we do our cross seams, and that's it. And we now have a finished quilt. We have 8 blocks in each direction for a total of 64 charms, and it measures 36 inches square, which is perfect for a little baby quilt. This is just right to lay on the floor where baby can lay and roll around and look at all the fun little prints and colors. So this turned out very, very well, and I'm excited at how it looks. The best part is what a quick and easy quilt this is. I wanted you to see what kind of variety there is in vintage fabric. It's amazing what you can find out there. And don't be surprised if you don't find a piece of sheeting that you may have had on your bed when you were a child. It's pretty fun to see. We have 2 4 patches, and the centers line up beautifully because we line those up on the outer edge, and these are going to alternate with this fabric. So this is going to be our center squares, or our background, and we're going to then have alternating 4 patches. So these blocks will all be surrounded by the print, and then these white blocks are going to alternate between those. So it's really going to have a beautiful overall pattern. An alternating 4-patch quilt goes together so quickly, and this one went together very, very well. I'm going to show you how to make an incredibly easy baby quilt, a baby rag quilt. And this is a very simple process, and it's simpler than most because we're using strips. Now we do have 2 layers of flannel on the front and on the back, and then in the center we have a layer of batting. When we do a strip quilt like this, what we do is we sew along the edge, and we connect the batting. We attach the batting to the fabric. So as we go through and sew on each side, the batting is secure. Then all we have to do is sew our strips together, and that's that. It makes it so much easier. It's a quick process, and it's incredibly easy. I'm really happy with how this quilt turned out. I think it's sweet. The colors are pretty. I just, it's a nice little baby quilt, and it'll make some little baby happy. Choosing fabrics to quilt together is my favorite part of quilting. And I have a pattern that I created a couple years ago that I want to share with you. It's a free download down below. It's called All Blocked In, and it's different size squares and rectangles put together, and I designed it to show off large focal fabrics, large prints, large designs that you don't want to cut up into small pieces. So there's large areas as well as small areas, and that works really well for me because there are some fabrics I like to see a whole lot of, and yet it also looks good in the corner against something else. Here's the finished quilt block, and I want to show you how we get there. So the first thing we do is sew in the accent strips, and this one goes between the 2 5-inch. This is the narrow 1-inch strip, and this is the 1.5-inch strip that goes to the long 2.5-inch piece on the edge of this block. Now the next thing I'm going to do, because you can see this goes here and this goes here, so we're going to sew these 2 pieces together. And then this is this block, so that'll go right there. And then as you can see, this goes right here. So this is a very simple block to piece. It's straightforward. There's no matching seams. Everything just sews over everything else, so you don't have to worry about that. The only time you'll have matching seams are at this point when the blocks come together. But we're dealing with 14.5-inch blocks here, so there's not going to be a lot of points where they're joining, which is awesome. It goes very quickly. How's that for a collection of quilts? Oh my goodness, there's a lot to choose from there. These are my best free baby quilt patterns that are easy and simple and fast to make. You're going to love them. Hopefully you found 1 or 2 or maybe even more. Download those patterns. They're free. They're PDF downloads. You can save them, and they'll be available to you anytime in the future. And now remember, there's 8 quilts here, but the 9th one is only in the description, and that's the free quilt labels. Now it doesn't have a video, but there's an extensive tutorial on how to use it. So you want to make these free personalized printable baby quilt labels. You'll love it. So don't miss that. I think that's everything. I'm so excited to share this with you. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I hope you enjoy these quilts and find a few treasures in there that you'll love to make over and over again. Thanks so much for being here. Have a fantastic rest of your day. As always, it's a pleasure being here with you.